I already pressed allow record.
Alrighty, guys, welcome back. League of Inches, here we go. And look, another week goes by, another juicy few topics and things like that coming through. We've got Sid back as well, and in his proud Dragons gear. So we'll flick to him in a second and see how he's feeling. I hope everyone had a good week, and I hope your team got up, or if not, I hope they played well, or hopefully you're not a Manly fan and you're coming off a pretty big loss. So, but talking about that game, let's introduce Sid quickly, big Dragons man. How'd your weekend go, brother?
Finally, back home to Cogra, back in the Red V, sack McGregor, big win, beautiful. Played a bit of footy, fought for quick play the balls, threw the ball around. We'll talk more soon.
Yeah, you're still on the sack McGregor bandwagon after that, or what, are you giving me a bit of leeway?
Mate, I'm a one-man band if I have to be. I'll be on drums and tambourine and everything.
Right, well, there's talk. There's a his sidekick is doing a lot of work there at the moment, and that's the talk of the town at the moment. So, as a guy who can't have an NRL gig at the moment, is doing pretty much the NRL coaching gig there. So, make of that what you will. But yeah, it's doing well for you guys. Look, first off, guys, start of the week, obviously your hats off. So, do the hats off. This week, I sort of touched on this last week at the end of the video. I just want to go into a little bit more this week because it's another few things have happened. I just want to go into a bit more detail about, again, it's to the NRL, Peter V'landys, and we've got the CEO, Andrew Abdo, and things like that, who I just think just continues to be on the front foot in regards to especially the COVID stuff that's happening in sport. You've got the AFL who's basically moving every second day. It seems like they're moving their teams. The NRL sticking solid at the moment, but at the same time, they've got their contingency plans in place that they've made very well public. They've got not just one or two, they've got 3 or 4 plans at the moment going through. They're ready for it if it happens again. They've still got, obviously, the Warriors. There's been some news today that a couple of their players are going back home next week, which is totally understandable after what's happened with them. But they've been on the pretty much front foot the whole time, and nothing but if people know me, they know that I haven't been the biggest fan of Todd Greenberg when he was in the position. I thought he was quite not really lazy, but I think he was a bit off himself. Wasn't doing the groundwork and wasn't getting his hands dirty. I don't think anyone can say the same about these guys at the moment. I think it's been great. Sid, what are your thoughts on that at the moment? How are you feeling the league's going on the front foot?
Oh, mate, I'm loving it. It wasn't too long ago we had no sport at all, and there was a vision from V'landys and co, and you know they basically just set themselves a date from all reports. They just said we're going to start on this day, whatever it was, 28th of May or something like that, and then they work backwards. It's a great method, and it's a real can-do attitude from V'landys and his team. The Project Apollo, I think they called it. And they just knocked over goals. They just basically said, all right, how are we going to get this done? You know, to whoever they needed to speak to, whatever government departments, whatever permissions, concessions they needed, they just asked, they got the right advice, and they got it done, mate. Brilliant. Love it. Love these guys. I'll shout him a beer if I ever meet him.
Yeah, me too. I don't even drink beer, but you know what? I'll drink one with him. So, look, guys, we've gone back to the 6 tackles this week. There's been quite a bit to talk about, and I think 1 or 2 that we put off from last week. A couple of sort of big talking points. I'm going to do something a bit different this week once I put the video up and just put in its sort of time slots and write in the comments where each thing sits in each time slot. So if you don't want to listen to the whole thing, you don't have to. You can just flick to where you want to watch in the video. But first tackle, we've got one from Sid who wanted to mention something, and I think it's a pretty good, decent point that he's actually made where he's identified watching the games. He's like myself, he watches pretty much every game. What he's noted is that actually I'll let him introduce it and talk to you guys about it. So Sid, take it away.
Yeah, so look, it's in relation to the 6 again. You know, we're loving the rule. We've spoken about it a few times. The rule's great. It's negated the benefit of the defensive team to slow down the play, the ball, give away penalty, send the captain to dawdle with the ref, you know, and all that stuff. It keeps the attacking team rolling. They don't care about kicking for touch. It's 6 again. They just go and it's extra tackles. And, you know, defensive teams, the offending teams, more importantly, you know, having to do regularly more than 7, 8, 9 tackles, 10, 11 tackles, 12 tackles in a row. And you see them roll by the time by the time the attacking team's on their last, they're right on the line. Doesn't matter where they were. So it's really exciting. But I noticed that there is a slightly, I think, higher than probably acceptable error rate. So when the ref calls 6 again, the errors. I've noticed that. I don't know if anyone's mentioned it in the media or whatever else. And I thought, well, why is this like they seem to get erratic when they hear 6 again. They get excited and they start running around throwing a little bit of jungle ball around. And I've traced it back to what my theory is, that I feel like it's when say you throw the ball around, the other team's going in for a tackle, and he touches the ball, and then the ref feels out 6 more, right? So it's a knock on for the other team, and then they get this free play for like 2, maybe 3 seconds, and then they throw the ball around and they try something. They don't care if they drop it because it's a free play. The referee turn around and bail them out and say it's no advantage. And I think that's there's a sort of like the wires across a little bit when they get the call of the 6 again. They think it's a free play subconsciously, and that's why we're seeing a high error rate.
Yeah. I think it's sort of a panic mode goes in for a quick one or two tackles where it's then the playmakers get on top of it and go, hang on a second, reset. We've got another 6 to go, and we can go back into this. So then most of the good teams will take their next 2 probably straight up and build off that. So the other thing I've been finding as well is a lot of teams are starting to give their 6 to go, especially early, probably the first or second tackle. But honestly, I'm starting to think it's a pretty dangerous way to do it, because you keep basically giving the team the free, basically run up the field. Pretty much every time a team gets 6 to go, they're basically doing an attacking kick on the line. Anyway, so I know the teams love defending on their try line. It's the easiest way to defend in the modern game, it seems. But it's going into a different criteria now with these 6 to goes, and we're seeing a lot of teams tied more so in the middle and things like that. So I think it's a good point you make. I think it's very valid, and I think it's something to sort of look out for as well for the viewers and stuff, and just notice it. And I think with teams, I think it's going to be drilled in as this comp goes on, and probably into next year as well. As coaches will get back into make sure someone's really listening to the ref, and make sure even if it's the opposite, like the opposite side winger or something, he's watching the ref, and as soon as he hears 6 to go, there's a call zone that goes out just to make sure everyone knows, and just go, look, let's settle this straight away, and not go into panic mode. So, look, guys, I've got to just go into sort of this is to do with sort of the reffing as well. And me and Sid, I explain every week, we always chat and we always talk about the games and things like that. Now, second tackle, what I want to talk about is that I'm going to tread carefully on this, because I think the referees as a whole are doing quite a good job, I feel. But I really feel like the last couple of weeks it's sort of been slipping a lot, and especially with the bunker. Now, I can understand and to a certain degree accept when a referee makes a mistake on the field. That's the heat of the moment. It's on there, all good. What I can't really accept anymore, and it's starting to become more and more, is the bunker apparently falling asleep. If I can say that, they don't even know half the time what's going on. There was a call, I think it was 2 weeks ago, where Checken went on, asked to get the captain's challenge, and the bunkers came back saying challenge was successful. He was checking the wrong thing. He wasn't even checking the right thing to start with. We saw it again on the weekend, the Simonson sin bin. Every day of the week, anyone who's played footy, anyone who's played touch footy, anyone who's played real sport in general, shoulder contact and that going for the ball is totally acceptable. That kid was going for the ball. If anything, Adokar put more pressure into him than he did to Adokar, and he's the one getting sin bin for it. I don't understand it. I think a big thing for me that came out, Annesley came out yesterday and he did one of his press conference things, and he said that in the bunker he's only got 3 hired video personnel, video refs to control the bunker. He goes, there's no demotion stages. No one can get demoted at the moment. I think that's a pretty big thing to say. There's no demotions in it. You've got only 3 people who can do it. I think most fans these days could do it. Sid, I want to bring you in on this one. I know you've been pretty vocal about it as well. How are you finding, especially, first of all, we'll talk about the bunker side of things. How have you found the bunker the last few weeks?
Yeah, look, I've noticed the strange decisions from the bunker. And like you said, I mean, I echo your sentiments. Definitely, they have the added advantage of time, multiple camera angles. They even have these bloody old school video game joysticks, so they can control the camera and speed up and put two up at a time, and this sort of thing. And they still come up with some strange things. The amount of times I've heard the commentators say, "Oh yeah, definitely try it," and then it comes up no try. You know, or definitely, you know, no try, or the other way around. Yeah, definitely no try, and then it comes up. And they just seem to be on their own planet. Mate. I think they should get an RBT in there or something. Seriously.
I think the other thing that coming from last week's games was that we had a great game in the Southern Tigers game. I thought that was pretty physical, and both teams were sort of going at it, knowing that basically whoever won that was going to be on top of each other on the ladder. And we saw an incident during that game where we saw Latrell and Reynolds in a bit of a fisticuff, so to speak. I felt like I know they've both now been given, I think, 2 weeks suspension-wise. Now, I'm on the side of things where I actually thought Reynolds was a bit could have got away with 1 to 2 weeks, but I thought Latrell deserved probably about 4. I thought he was a lot more reckless. You could argue that in real time, Reynolds was sort of just off getting that ball when Graham kicked the ball, and if he got it through, there was probably a good chance of scoring that because there was no fullback at home, and he was first to the ball. Latrell, and then after if people haven't seen it, Reynolds goes over to look at Graham to make sure he's okay. So he's seen that he's actually done the wrong thing. He's gone after the ball's been dead in play. He's gone over to see him. Latrell's come over with this swinging arm with a closed fist, mind you. So it's intentional. It's nothing. All he wants to do right there is take him out. There was now after this happened, you've had about a minute or two where the refs have looked at things. There's been a little bit of a push and shove, and the bunker's been up there sitting there. How can't you go to your referee and say there was a closed fist swinging arm in there? Reynolds didn't have the ball in sight. That's at least a sin bin. Put him on report, away you go. Now, at the time in the game, Mitchell didn't even get put on report. It was Reynolds that got put on report. I don't know what's going on there at the moment. I don't feel like us viewers at home can see it all happening. The commentators are talking about it. Everyone's seen it, yet the bunker doesn't see it. What was your thoughts on that that part of the game and Reynolds and then Latrell bit, Sid?
Yeah, no, I watched it live. I remember it quite clearly. Look, Reynolds has it. He's one of those players. He lacks a little bit in skill and raw talent, but what he makes up for is the enthusiasm that he brings. He's just like a jack in the box. So both his style and his attitude, what he brings. But he has that in his locker, that brain explosion. I think this case was an accident. I just think back to he's been done for tripping more than once, you know. So as far as Reynolds himself, you could look and go, oh, maybe he saw the guy there and thought I'll have a crack. But watching it live and in slow motion, I still reckon it's an accident. Look, having said that, he put Campbell Graham in the HIA. I would have gone with 10 in the bin, and they did say that at the start of last year, if you deplete the other team for one player, then you're going to go in the bin as well. And as usual, because they keep hitting these refs with new rules, as soon as it's not the flavour of the month, has it been mentioned in the papers or whatever else, it quickly fades away. And you're going to bring one up later in one of the other tackles. I know exactly what you're talking about, but we'll leave it for later. It's a perfect example of that, next. Where if it's a flavour of the month, then they do it, they ref it hard, and then it fades away. And this is the other one. I thought he should have got 10. And as far as Latrell coming in, look, you think about it in real life, I'm with the old school, right? Abuse, but that doesn't happen anymore. In real life, you think about it like this, if a bloke's standing on the street and you went up to him like that, they'll probably be in court for 2 years on an assault charge. Yeah. You know, it's just, look, I was going for Souths. I like both teams, but I was going for Souths that night. But I have to say, he should have got 10 in the bin for throwing it. So they both should have got 10 in the bin each. And Latrell probably could go for 2 or 3 weeks. And Reynolds, maybe a fine, maybe a week. Because they didn't give him 10 in the bin, they're both getting weeks off, which didn't impact or benefit the teams that were affected. So, you know what I mean? So Souths were affected by losing Graham for that 15 minutes minimum, but they got no benefit from Reynolds being suspended for 2 weeks. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it should have been, 100% agree with you, it should have been addressed on the day. A professional foul like that usually comes with a fine rather than a suspension, but they didn't do it, and then they were forced to suspend both players.
Yeah, 100%. Now, look, in regards, that was a bunker. The refereeing ranks. Now, some of you might not know too much about the refs, how it works. Now, Jared Sutton, I think he's sort of what's been told as the head ref there. He gets all the big games. He gets the State of Origins, the grand finals, everything. His brother is the guy that's in charge of the referees, and he's basically the head honcho there. And for about a year or two, if you listen to a lot of people in the media, there's been word of bias in the ranks. He has his set few favourites that he gives all the big games to, so to speak, and other people he gives the lesser games to on a weekly basis. Yet a lot of the time they're the ones at the moment actually controlling the game a lot better than some of these higher up refs. Now, for example, I use Ben Cummins now. If I'll watch all the games, if you watch Ben Cummins' games, he seems to be a referee that cannot keep control of a game. Every game I seem to watch under him, he loses control of it quite quickly, and he seems to forget some of the rules at times. He seems to sit there and sort of look around and have a couple of minutes to go, oh, hang on, what's going on here, and then decides, and always going upstairs on anything he can. And yet Chekin, for mine, is probably one of the better refs we've got in the game. He's a lot more approachable with the players. The players seem to respect him. Yet every week, if you look at the games that he has to ref, he refs the lowest game each week at the moment. Now, there's been talk about a year ago, there was a big falling out with them. That's the reason behind this. He was actually supposed to go to Super League to start reffing. He was over it, but because of the COVID and stuff, he got told to stay back here. Understandable. But in regards to the refs, and Sid was pointing on it now, there's a rule out there that I'm absolutely, it's annoying the crap out of me at the moment, to be honest with everyone. It's the foot on the ball. It's now, it started last year, we got told the referees were going to be harping on this. Every time there was no effort to be a foot to the ball or no contact, there was going to be a penalty to the other team. Now, weekly, and I'd say game at the moment, each game, I'm seeing, I'd say between 5 to 10, where there's no even effort to make a foot to the ball. And some of them I've seen last week, I think there was 2 or 3 that actually led to a try. And I can't believe it. There was one in the Parramatta game where they actually ruled no try against it, where the replay showed our player actually got the foot to the ball. I didn't understand it. Newcastle markers weren't square. Should have been a try. I don't know what was going on there. But I know you mentioned it, Sid, but how you find that rule? I know I keep pointing it out to you. We seem to send a few messages about it, but it's a pet hate for mine. Am I just being a bit silly, or what are you thinking?
No, look, when I played, I always made a point to put the ball end to end as quickly as possible, clear the ruck. You know, if the guy's all over you, do a bit of these ones. You know, and then put the ball like that, put it straight down, and put your foot in the middle and roll it. I just thought that was always the way, but then over recent years in particular, it just got worse and worse. I remember even some of the best players, like Pedro Sevenasiva, never used to put a foot on the ball. I don't know if you remember him, you know? Yeah. One of the best forwards, you know, that of his era. Fifita was big one for that. It's very, very guilty of it. Even the, if I may add to that, the diagonal play the ball. So if the player gets up and he's trying to do a quick play the ball, and then he puts the marker offside, he steps aside and he diagonally plays it, or even goes completely away from the mark. There's an advantage. Then there's an advantage there because the marker's scared to do something now because the ref's going to ping him, even though the marker was already square, you know, or may have been where he thought was supposed to be square or in the vicinity, and it's gone somewhere else. But diagonal play the ball and something else, like he's supposed to face goal. That's another one where they don't do it unless people complain for a little bit and it ends up on the media.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's disappointing. It's a small thing, but the ruck is the most important part of the rugby league game. Most important part.
That's the thing.
It needs to be addressed.
That's the thing. It is a small thing to some, but at the same time, if defensive team can win the ruck, that can go a long way to either forcing an error, forcing a mistake, which that is. If you're making someone try and play the ball either that quick or he's off balance so he can't get his foot to the ball, for me, that's a win for the defensive team. Now, the way that they've changed the rules in recent years with no shoulder charges and things like that, it's harder for the defensive team to win a set in D and attack, I guess, in defense, which a lot of the leaguers out there will understand that sort of talk. But that's one of the ways you can do it. And if I feel like at the moment the referees are going against that because, as you said earlier, they're getting too much new rules introduced to them each year. We've got a great game. I think we've got to start to stick with what we've got now. Leave that for now. Stop doing all these rule changes. We're getting pretty much there. In saying that, I want to talk about something for third tackle now. I'm sitting there on the weekend and I think to myself, especially this year, we've got COVID going. We don't have many sports at the moment, junior sports and things like that going on. I'm thinking, what's missing at the moment? We're going through the weekdays, the weekends on Saturday and Sunday. During the day, there's nothing on. I see AFL on. There's no NRL. There's no league getting played. There's no junior grades. There's no nothing. And I'm thinking, even for this year, but I'd like to have this for longer time. We always seem to say the best quality games, and we seem to be whinging about a lot of the fields at the moment being slippery, is during the day. It's a drier field, more attacking plays. It's not as cold at the moment as well. So for the small crowds that we can get, it's a bit better for crowd factor, and it's going to be a better spectacle. Why aren't we having more TV day games? Why aren't we having more 1 o'clock time slots, 12 o'clock time slots? You can go on the Sundays and do your 12 o'clock. You can do your 2 o'clock time slot as well. We seem to be harping down on these nighttime games. I understand why, TV times and things like that. But I thought, especially this year, trying something. We're missing the big mark here, Sid, in terms of getting a bit more audience during those day games and a better spectacle footy moving forward.
Yeah, look, definitely. Look, I'm all for the daytime games for a number of reasons. As a fan, watching both on TV and to the idea of going out to the games. I mean, you think about it like this: if you have little kids, you're not going to take them out to a Friday night 8 o'clock or even 6 o'clock. Or the Saturday 7:30. It's just not going to happen. And if you want to stay home and watch it, guess what? My kids go to bed before 7. Then they're not going to. They're not going to watch the footy. It's not family friendly. I know it is a TV time slot, but I don't know, like in my humble opinion, because obviously I don't know the stats and the numbers, there definitely would be people watching in the day. I mean, frankly, if you're a rugby league fan, you're gonna watch whatever game you can get your hands on, whatever time, as an adult. But it would be more accessible in the day and more appealing, as you mentioned, because it's more likely to be a drier game, drier track and a better footy. Like you said, why not have a round where they're all in the daytime, like the Nines. That was awesome. We watched the Nines for 2 days. The first game's at 8:45. You're like mad. Get up, have a brekkie, and watch footy.
Yeah, exactly. And other codes are doing it. Obviously, during the day, it does work for professional sport. We see it over in the Premier League and that a lot of their games are during the days and stuff. So it does work. And I just thought, for me personally, I just feel like day games are better quality, and people keep whinging about fields and deteriorating and things like that. You'll cut that out if it's not as dewy and the turf won't be ripping up as much. So move on to the fourth tackle because we've got a couple of big points coming up here. So one that's close to your heart and you wanted me to briefly touch on was the transfer market and window, which always seems to pop up this time of year. We hear from a coach's point of view, we hear from club point of view, players. Let's hear it from a fan's point of view. And Sid, take it away here. I know this is your bread and butter, so to speak. What are you thinking of this one?
Okay, so there's two facets to this, right? There's the movement of players, okay, and the monetary side, right? I've heard before that there might be some issue in Australian sport laws in terms of restraint of trade or something like that, and contractual laws and all that sort of thing. But A-League, Australian soccer, to a very small scale, still have transfer markets. So if they can, I'm sure if rugby league, the NRL really wanted it, they could make it happen. Okay, so basically, what we want is what I would say is a good idea. Is just 1 month or even 2 to 3 weeks during the season for any player movement. They say the contract registration is July in a normal season, so the 1st of July, the first of the financial year, right?
Yeah.
So for argument's sake, we'll do the whole of June is the transfer window, right? Players want to move. Some teams might have 6 or 7 good back rowers. Another team, had 2 season-long injuries and, 1 veteran back rower and they've got a couple of young blokes there. They might need a back rower. No worries. We'll give you a back rower. The player's happy because he'll get a chance to get a run at a team that needs him. And the team that had him, they can get him off the books with regards to the salary cap. And the team that gains him, they obviously gain the back rower, So in terms of the players themselves, there's definitely a need for it there. You don't have to worry about like this happening all the time because they know there's a window for it. It becomes like it's something for, in English Premier League, for example, all European soccer, they get excited. It's an exciting, they call it the silly season, but you don't know who your team's going to buy, who this, this bloke's going to wear your jersey or whatever else. So there's an element of excitement to it as well, if your team's, as I said, if your team needs a type of player, strike centre, and one comes available, beautiful.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a big coup for the team. And as far as the monetary side, obviously we're not talking millions and millions of dollars like soccer, right? But say a young bloke coming through, he's on 75, he's on the base wage. I think it's 90 now for the base wage for an NRL player, right? Young bloke coming through, he's on 90. He's got 2 years left on his contract. You pretty much buy out the contract, 90 is a half of it, or 180, depending, right? And now the question might be raised, where can we get the money from? Where do clubs get the money from? Well, they get it from selling players. And they get it from, in some cases, sponsors. So if most sponsors are in for the commercial side, but you get sponsors like, for example, Newcastle and Wollongong are great examples, sponsors that are there, and quite often the owners of the business are mad fans of the club, right? So they're happy to say, oh, what are the chances you'll get, so-and-so to your team? Oh, beautiful. I'll tip in for the transfer market, if you get me to be his major sponsor, you know what I mean? Or something like that, right? So that's where the money will come from, and also raising money from juniors. So teams like Penrith and Brisbane over time, even the Dragons with the South Coast is quite a good catchment of juniors. Instead of just losing players year after year, you can actually sell those players and bring in Super League and the British pound into it, and you watch the competition grow and you watch the clubs get healthier just on trading talent with money.
Yeah. I like the idea. I think it adds a little bit of excitement. I know American fans for their NFL and things like that love those time of year, and so same to all the soccer fans out there. They love talking about who they can possibly get, things like that. My only question to you regarding it, I've got to be the devil's advocate here, would be, what do you think is wrong with what we've got at the moment? What needs to be fixed?
Look, I think the window aspect, so is in a set time frame where players can move, so it's not just any time. Since the ball was kicked till now, players have been moving mid-season. Last year, the year before, teams like Bulldogs trying to shed players left, right, and centre. Firstly, it would be nice to clean it up. So look, if you want to move, you wait till June. Wait till June, get your house in order. Speak to your manager, get it all organised, and then you want to announce on the 1st of June you're leaving, no worries. I think there's a certain, it will help with the expectation of fans as well. Fans will become desensitised to this because it's normal, because it can be frustrating for some fans where this guy's playing for your team and he's no longer playing for your team, and then the loyalty question comes up anyway. So that's one issue, and the other issue is, look, I think if they can just put an even playing field or an even set of rules out on the table in terms of transfer and player value and all that sort of thing. Like, you can Google European soccer player value, and you'll have a whole list of the market value, like a stock market, right? With the players transferring now, they're kind of doing it in the night where, say, for example, if a player wants to go to another team, he's on 400 grand. They don't really need him, but the team that wants him, they want him, but they don't want to pay his whole contract, and they go halves on the contract and all this sort of thing. So, and then you got other times where there's player trades, and it's just here, there, and everywhere. I think just one system, streamline it, and the fans will get on board. Everyone will know the rules, and they'll stick to that month as well.
Yeah, I think in my head thinking about it, I think Peter V'landys and the NRL actually are wanting to go closer to this sort of thing at the moment. I feel like they want to. They're approaching it in regards to a loan system at the moment. They've got they're introducing that loan style thing. So you've seen with the Storm and Tigers, they've done it with Grant and Memorovsky. So I think they're slowly sort of testing the waters out. I think they do want to go to that sort of aspect because they see the benefits of it. It'll be interesting what happens the next few years because I know there is definitely talk out there about it. I like the idea. I think most fans do like the idea. It means as well your pre-season, the players that are with you in the pre-season are there for at least the first few months of the comp as well. And then if anyone is unrest, they can then leave midway through that season to find better pastures, and the club can then find someone else to bring in. And you can find, like, look at Parramatta, for instance. A few years ago, we ended up signing Moses, and that's probably been one of our better buys of the last decade. So, and we picked him up in mid-season. So it can work. And, mate, you're an ideas man, and I'll send your letters to Peter V'landys and he'll help you out. Now, look, fifth tackle. The Bulldogs. Now, I want to talk about the Bulldogs. I want to talk about a team from mine that has got stuck under the radar this year and pretty much the last few years, to be honest. Their attack has been absolutely diabolical, not just this year, but for, I reckon, a good 3 years, I'd say, for the Bulldogs. They were hidden with that because at the start they were playing a very tough brand of football. They were very defensive minded, so they could keep teams to 6 to 8 points and still win by only scoring 10, and no one was questioning it. Where now they don't have that anymore. They don't have the players there anymore to be able to play that kind of footy. They've got some players who were there back then, but they're now older. They haven't managed the salary cap at all properly. Now, that's not there's a be all and end all here. There's a he said, she said at the Bulldogs at the moment. Their board is all over the place. I've got a lot of Bulldogs fans, and they talk to me about it often. And at the moment, it's crazy. A club that has got such a proud history. Their fans are probably one of the most they got the biggest heart, one of the biggest hearts in the comp. They're always there, and they're proud to be a Bulldogs slogan, and they're hurting at the moment. I know a lot of Bulldogs fans out there are, and it's hard to watch because they just sucked their coach Dean Pay. Now he's probably one of the most Bulldogs guys you'll ever meet, and their whole thing about that club is being a family club. And you start to question that. You start to go, well, I think you're now just starting to be the boy who cried wolf, and you're saying certain things and you're not backing up with your actions. Any coach at the moment, I'd say chuck in there, and they wouldn't have that Bulldogs team off last place at the moment. To just put it bluntly, they don't have, most of those players wouldn't make any sort of other team in the comp. You had the halfback on the weekend, Wakeham, who for mine doesn't offer anything at all. No offense to the bloke, but he's just not NRL standard, and he's thrown in the deep end. He couldn't control anything the other night and hasn't been able to the last few weeks. Poor old Foran's a bit injured still at the moment, trying to carry this whole team by himself. He just can't do it. He's not the same player as he was. Now, a question I want to ask you, Sid, is people are talking about Barrett. People say it's basically a sure thing for the Bulldogs. Do you think he's the right coach to be going there?
Look, Barrett's been known more recently as a good tactical / attacking mind coach. I'm sure he has ambitions to coach again in the NRL, right some wrongs in terms of the reputation blemish he copped with the first attempt at Manly. But my prediction would be if they take him, I don't think he'll take the job, but if they take him or offer him and he accepts it, that it may be not so great. Not unless they say, like Seabok, they just say, no matter what happens, he's our coach for the next 5 years, right?
Yeah.
That's the only way it's going to work, because Barrett's previous gig at Manly, I'll give you one example. I don't think he's great with adversity. I mean, obviously, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors in conversation, but I remember specifically he had complained to the owners of Manly because of lack of gym facilities. The sheds weren't right. I think from memory, the couple of showers weren't working, and he complained and they never fixed it. I mean, that's a reflection on Manly. The owner of Manly is, he's cried poor and reckons. I remember, because it's the same around the same time, he said he invested $500,000 into the training facilities, and then someone said, "Oh, hang on, Penrith spent $13.5 million on their training facilities," and these guys are multimillionaires, right? Anyways, so the point of me telling you that is there was a bit of adversity, and that adversity, the rubbish they had to put up, the L-shaped dressing sheds, the dated amenities, and the old ground, he couldn't bring it. It was just distracting or whatever, and he couldn't deliver his message to the team, and then they were poor for that period. Then Hasler stepped in with virtually exactly the same team, in fact. 3 superstars, the Trebojevic boys and DCE, and then just whoever around them, some good ones, some new ones,
Yeah.
and then catapulted them to, I think they finished 5th last year, 5th or 6th, in the semis. And it was the exact same team, same conditions. He didn't complain about anything. He just got on with it. The point of me telling you that is that the Bulldogs have a lot of issues. And I don't think, unless Barrett has grown into a new man in 1 year, 1.5 years, he's going to have adversity. And there's a lot of adversity at the Bulldogs at the moment with what's going on with the boards and all that sort of thing. Yes, the facilities are way better. We know that. They've invested heavily in that. It's a much better club in that sense. But I'm worried that if they get him, he's going to have the same thing. He's going to have the sook. It's not going to be great. He has got to be. We need somebody that's going to get on with it. Maybe an old head is better for him and better for the club, actually.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the whole thing with the Bulldogs at the moment and with Barrett, only, if people don't remember, Barrett's winning percentage, I looked it up the other day, was something like high 30% at the moment. So it's not really up there. And when he first came into Manly, he had a bit of a clean-up job, so to speak, to do when Lyon and that retired. But he has the same thing then now at the Bulldogs. It's a clean-up mission. It's a rebuild mission. They need a coach in there for 4 to 5 years to stick with and build up. And I don't know if he's got the credentials there at the moment to do that. Being an assistant coach at the moment, he's doing well with Penrith, is a much different prospect than taking on a job at the Bulldogs, where you've already mentioned you've got board issues at the moment. There's talk that there's going to be a re-election in the next 6 months, an emergency re-election. So who knows who you're going to be working with. That could change all of a sudden. You've got a roster that it needs massive, massive dramas. You've got about $3 million to spend next year. So you need someone in there who actually knows what he's going to be there to do and how to manage a salary cap, because it's very easy if you got that much money to go, yep, no worries, let's go after Fifita for 1.2. Let's go after if he was back playing, let's go after a JT and throw him $1 million. Let's go and throw Harry Grant 800,000, and all of a sudden you've spent $3 million on 3 or 4 players. It's easy to lose your mind very quickly. You need someone with a bit more of a. Me personally, I'll ask you this question as well, but I'd be going for a Paul Green. I know he's on the outer with Cowboys at the moment. Now, if you remember when he went to the Cowboys, it was a similar sort of situation. He had the luxury of having JT on board, which helped, and Matty Bowen. But at that time, the Cowboys weren't a great team, and they were struggling a little bit. And he's brought them from basically the dust up to win the comp. If it wasn't Barrett, who would you recommend, Sid?
Look, I like Paul Green. I respect him as a coach, and we've talked about this before. He's a premiership winner. You still got to deliver. I know you had JT, but you still got to deliver. And he did that, and he also They also went to a grand final without JT 2 years ago. Don't forget, right? So he's a good coach. But I would, forgetting that I go for Dragons, just as a rugby league fan, I think the perfect fit for Bulldogs right now is Jeff Tuvey.
Okay.
He's got the right attitude. He will never settle for half-assed performance. He will never settle for 1% down.
Yeah.
And he's got like the hard edge
attitude,
character, and and he'll buy players like that. He'll buy a few. He'll probably find some nuance, some no-names that we don't know about that might have been waiting in the wings. And he'll build some aggro. He'll bring some aggro to that club, and they love it. Dogs of war and all that stuff. They love that. It's part of the DNA of the club.
That's what they need to go back to.
Yeah, I think he's a perfect fit, man.
Yeah, that's what they need to go back to, the Dogs of War attitude, and getting players in there who fit that bill. Get those tough blokes back in. Get those. They started well. Like to give Bulldogs a wrap, as we wrap the Dogs up, is that their new players, the Luke Thompson, the Englishman. I actually love what I saw from him last week. I know it was his first game, and he was a little bit off timing wise and that with a few things, but he's got that grunt. He reminds me very much of when they first signed James Gray, and that sort of just continues to go at him. If they can build one or two more, I'd be going after one or two more Pommy guys. The Raiders did it well. You get a couple of Pommies in there and it changes the attitude of a lot of players, and their approach is just, you know what, let's just do it, get in there, rip and tear for 80 minutes, and that's what we do. I reckon that'd be something that worth the Dogs going down. That way you don't have to pay overs for players, because that's going to be a big thing for them coming up, is players who will only go there for money. And that moves us on now to the last point, 6 tackle. So we're going to go back to we get the kick away, which is good. Last week we didn't get to, so we'll get the kick this time. Now, this guy hasn't been away from the media. David Fifita, does he stay at the Broncos or does he go to the Titans for reportedly an extra $500,000 more each year? Now, I'll get Sid on this, but me, the more I think of it, the more I think going to the Titans would suit him more at the moment. I think he can be the franchise player for the club. I don't think he'll be that at the Broncos. I think they've still got a few other players like your Tavita Pangai Jr., your Haas, and a couple of other young backs that are coming through. And at the moment, I don't think he plays too well under the Seabold style of coaching. And if they're sticking with him for a while, I don't think you'll see the very best of it. I think there's another couple more gears in his playbook, where if he can play right with the right hooker and right playmakers, you could see him running a bit better lines, and you'll see his game go to another level. So if I was his brother, or if I was his father or something, I'd be putting in that. I think it's a better move, not just for the money. I think that obviously helps setting up your family and things like that. I actually go to the Titans for probably less money than what they're offering, just for the challenge. And I think Holbrook's doing good things. We've talked about the Titans a couple of weeks ago, and I think they're slowly getting there. What do you reckon, Sid? Broncos or Titans?
Look, I would say I try not to be biased, but I would say go to the Titans as well. I'll echo those words. He could be a franchise player. I rate David Fifita, so highly. I call him Gordon Tallis Part 2, the Raging Bull number 2. I don't know if you're old enough to see Raging Bull in his prime, mate. And not just like throwing Brett Hodgson over the sideline. I'm talking about just a normal hit up, and then he'd run 80 metres. He'd run 60 metres. He was doing it regularly at the Dragons at 19 and 20 years old. Then he went to Broncos for a big money deal, and he won a couple of premierships there. And he was doing it constantly. Just a tearaway is a perfect word. I know the word is used a lot. It's a very Australian term, but it's a perfect description, because there might be a defender on him, or even two, and he just has so much upper body strength and technique. He could shrug him off. He could conjure up the power to shrug him off. The guy will go flying. The ball will stay locked up perfectly, and all of a sudden there's a gap.
And his footwork.
And his footwork, yes, that's exactly right. Because when he's engaged in the line, like I'm talking really close, he puts his feet in a place where he's not going to get tangled with the defender or the upcoming defenders. He finds his way through. it's a damn shame he's been injured for so long because it's becoming a faded memory. But he was just, and the scary thing is he's actually young, and he's that much stronger than everyone. Even Andrew, and if I may add, his cousin Andrew Fifita at Sharks said, quote, David is way stronger than me. That's what he said. He said, watch this kid go. He's way stronger than me. And mate, he's gifted. He can, and to go back to answering your question, I think Holbrook has shown enough to show he has some promise. He has a vision with the game, and it's showing. It's making Titans punch above their weight, Yeah. And they're knocking over a few teams.
And people are questioning if the Titans will be around for a while. They've actually got a bit more money behind them than what people think. They've got the Frizzell group and things like that. So I think they are going to be around in this comp, and I think there's other teams that are going to be going before they do. So they do have some money, and good luck to Fifita with what he chooses. Obviously, a massive decision coming up, and hopefully he just hurry up and chooses, because I'm pretty overhearing about it every day. So hopefully, go the Titans, brother. I'll see you up here on the Goldie. So it's only a short drive down the M1. Previews. So a couple of games we'll go through. We've got tomorrow night's the grand final rematch, which Ricky seems to be a bit annoyed about at the moment with some of the treatment they're getting, but understandable what he's talking about, some of the points he's making. You can sort of see it, 5-day turnaround against the premiers. They've got to travel the same day, and they'll have to stay in a hotel overnight, things like that, which just makes it a bit harder. So it's basically a 4-day turnaround when you sort of put it like that, because they can't do anything on the day of the game and all that sort of thing. So look, for that, I'm going to go the Roosters. I know they've got a couple of players out still, but I just think the Roosters are a well-oiled machine. They're back at the SCG, which I think they're undefeated since playing there, I think, or they've won their last 10 or something. Sid, where are you seeing this one? I think it's going to be Roosters by about 10. I see the Raiders doing the us against them mentality, staying with them for a bit, but I just think the class of the Roosters shine through.
Yeah, look, I can't say anything but a Roosters comfortable win in the end. We've talked about this before. Roosters are that team that they've been together that long with the same coach and the same system and the same core few players that they'll lose a bloke, they'll bring another one in, and he does the same job virtually. They don't even have to. I'm surprised they even talk to each other on the field. They know what they're doing. When they need those, quick play the balls, they just play touch footy. It usually happens early to midway through the second half. And then they get a few dumps, a couple of 6-mores, and then they run a set piece. And if they don't score, they'll just do another set piece back the other way, and then they'll score. They're an awesome team, and they've still got Teddy. Teddy's worth about 5 players at the moment. He's just ridiculously hard to tackle. I can't see Canberra stopping him. It'll be a gallant effort. Like you said, Ricky will try to rally him, but no.
Yeah. Now, in the next few games, I normally like to do a game each night to preview, but this one I've thought the Saturday games to me look like a pretty. They've got some storylines behind them. So the first up, you got Dragons v Dogs. So first of all, quickly touch on your Dragons. Obviously, another good win on the weekend. You had to put Manly away, and you did so. An understrength Manly side. You played like, dare I say, the top 8 team for once. With all those big names that you have there at the club, Lomax not hitting some form, and Frizzell was back to his best. You're looking good. So for that, look, the reason I put this in, because you often see with teams when they lose a coach and things like that, the next week they're up. I think this will be the opposite. I think Dragons will win this by 50. I'm going to go out and say it. I think the Dogs loved Dean Pay. The players loved him. Just quality isn't there. You can't coach people who just aren't first grade standards, no matter how good of a coach you are. And I just think it's going to have a negative effect on the playing group. I think it's going to go worse before it gets better for the Dogs. So Dragons by 50 for me. Sid, how do you think your team's going to go?
Well, that will be nice. Look, I was worried about the bounce back factor, the new coach thing, but you raise a very valid point. I didn't even think of it. Look, they could be down in the dumps because they lost their coach. Look, as far as the the game goes, man on man, Dragons are at least a 20-point better team. I think I messaged you a couple of nights ago in regards to this. You know, I still think the Dragons were tanking when they played the Bulldogs last time, trying to get rid of Mary. And obviously they were told, look, he's gone at the end of the season. We've restructured a bit. You know, they've got this selection committee, this coaching committee. Flanagan's now doing the attack. McGregor's doing, I don't know, collecting cones or whatever for 750K. And yeah, and you're seeing a difference, right? But at the time, the game that they were tanking, or which I think they were tanking, is Bulldogs players were jumping on each other like they won the grand final. And if you can imagine, you're tanking to send a message to the board to get rid of your coach, right? Nothing untoward, nothing in terms of, you know, betting or throwing a match. But yeah, so if imagine you're doing that and the other team's jumping on each other and you're thinking, oh, geez, I can't wait to demolish you blokes next time, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like there's going to be revenge on their mind. So yeah, it might be a decent performance on that, unless it's a disaster or we get off to a slow start, you know, a couple of quick tries from the Dogs. But even then, I mean, nah, they try hard, but they're not good enough, the Dogs, unfortunately. Not this year, anyways.
Yeah, I also like the move to for Ben Hunt back to hooker to start the game. I thought he was very, very good there. Second and last one, South v Knights. Big game. South without a couple of key players with Mitchell and Graham out, so the backline's got a bit of a shake-up. Knights just seem a bit off at the moment with their attack. Pearce is taking a bit more control. Ponga's being played out of the game, and so is their young gun Bradman Best for mine. This is the hardest game to tip of the week for mine. I've gone the Knights because I think without Latrell, I don't think the South offer too much in attack at the moment. I think their positional ladder shows they're doing a bit better than they actually are. I think they've won a few fluky games. I think the Knights have to click. I think they have to click again. I think the coach will probably get there and have a chat this week with Ponga, get him more in the game, get him more on that left side that he was so good at. Sid, where you find this one?
Look, it's tough. I mean, if everything you said is spot on, you know, I agree with those observations. The Knights are a bit down on the attack. The defense is still holding up. South is still just a little bit too impatient, a little bit erratic in their attack, and you know it's showing when they make a lot of breaks, South, but compare the breaks to the tries, they're not converting their opportunities, and they're doing that a lot. That's because they're erratic. Now that they've lost Latrell, Alex Johnson is more of a no-frills type of fullback. Doesn't offer a lot of razzle-dazzle, but will get the job done. He'll catch every ball. If there's a line break, he'll make the tackle. You know what I mean? And so there is. I'm guessing a low-scoring, lots of penalty goals in true Wayne Bennett fashion, and maybe South's grab a very, very short, like 2 to 4 point win, I think. So
all right. Perfect. Yeah. There we go. We're different that one. I'll bet you 50 on it. All right. The last one this is the last Saturday game is Manly versus Paris, so the traditional rivals. Back to the old days, and all the older league fans love these games. You can put whoever you want put on these jerseys, and you'll always get a hard game, a slogfest. I think this is what it's going to be. I think Manly's going to turn up this week after the spanking thanks to you guys, so you've done us no favours. But it's going to be a hard one. I think Manly is still a bit off. They're definitely missing Turbo, and DC's been off lately. He doesn't seem to be able to do it all himself. Turbo's a massive loss to that team. I think we keep it. I think we keep the run going. I think we beat them, but I think it's going to be close. I actually think we only beat them by 6 to 12 points in this one. How do you find this one, Sid?
Yeah, look, my observation on Manly is the same as it was last week. You know, when I messaged you, I said Manly are on the slide and Dragons on the slight, rise. Obviously, the rise has improved now because of that performance, but I still think Manly's on the slide. Des Hasler will, obviously try his hardest to arrest that, but it's probably not the game to turn it around. they need to play like a Titans or Bulldogs or Warriors to get their confidence back. So it won't be the week, and plus they lost what I feel is probably the top 3 front rowers in the game in Fanua Blank.
Yeah.
I know he's a hot head, but he's out for another week. It's a massive loss, you know.
Yeah.
I think he's more damaging than Taupau, and I think he makes Taupau more damaging, and Taupau's struggling to do it on his own at the moment.
Yeah, and they lost his the guy that came in for him last week, Kepi, as well. So they're down to their third or fourth string prop. Well, that's it there, guys. Any last thoughts of the week ahead and things like that, Sid?
Look, actually, I did want to refer to something you sent me. You said to me, they're starting to show a gap between top 5 team and the rest of them.
Oh, yep.
And this week, I've never been more confident in my tipping because of it. There are a few games where it's like, I can't see that team losing, and usually I change my mind every hour. So there'll be some. There'll be the good team. A lot of the good teams aren't really playing each other, and I know disrespect to Canberra, but they're a different team to they were last year. So they'll probably get spanked by the Roosters. And the same with Manly. Like last year, Manly Para would have been a very even game, but I think they're going to get spanked. This will be a round where the good teams flex their muscles a bit. That's my thoughts, anyways.
Well, thanks for the raps, brother. I'll try my best. I'll watch enough footy. I think there definitely is a big gap at the moment, and the top 4 especially is quite a long way ahead. And I was looking at the draw, and I did a bit of a ladder prediction this week. You know, it's hard to see any of those top 4 losing much games towards the end of the year. So for mine, my early prediction is top 4. I'll give everyone a shout out quickly as well. Next week we're going to do a mid-season review video. So get ready for that one. We'll just talk about each team and how they're going as it's halfway through the year. But everyone, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy watching this video. Give us a review. Give us a like. Give us a follow. All those sorts of things. But good luck, especially to the Dogs fans out there. It might be another tough week for you. I'm feeling a bit sorry for you. And hopefully that Dragons fan has another smile on his face next week.
Thanks,
See you guys.
Stay safe.